Welcome to JP411. So I'm going to do a preview of the Raiders versus Chargers. So the Raiders are going to play their first Monday night game, and it's going to be at home. So the first player I want to mention is Geno Smith. Geno Smith, he's going to have to be on the same page with this offensive lineman so they can be on the same page so they can know what plays he's going to be calling and also if they're gonna run the football as well, they're gonna have to be on the same page. And then also he's gonna have to also be on the same page is with their wide receiver group and then also their tight end group. So he's gonna have to take the lead. He's gonna have to take charge and make sure everyone is on the same page so they could be able to dominate out there. So the next player I would like to talk about is Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty is a really good running back and he knows how to play well. He knows how to get open and capture football, make some nice plays, but then he knows how to get some yards and make sure he does a nice job. Does a nice job with the running back. So okay, and the next I'd like to mention is the offensive lineman. The offensive lineman they're gonna have to step it up this week. Last week, the Raiders allowed 5 sacks out there. So when the Raiders play against the Chargers, they're gonna have to step up big time and make sure they don't allow 5 sacks. And then second is, and they gotta make sure they got to eliminate as much penalties as they can. Why? Because last week the Raiders had 5 penalties on the offensive linemen, where they had false start and they also had illegal formation. When the Raiders play against the Chargers, they cannot get any penalties out there. If the Raiders, no, if the Raiders want to win this game, they must not do any penalties. They're going to have to be on the same page with their starting quarterback and making sure they are protecting their quarterback well and making sure they are stepping it up when they need be so he can have time in the pocket so we don't allow 5 sacks again. But also, and then also I would like to see is Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll having deep communication with his offensive coordinator and his offensive lineman coach and his QB coach, where they are on the same page and they're making sure they're on the same page. So they like if they have to make adjustments or they have to make adjustments to the offensive lineman or they have to call different playbooks. That's what they gotta do in order to beat the Chargers. That's what they gotta do. So next I would like to mention is the defense. And the defense is going to need to step it up. Hi. Well, the defense is going to need to step it up this week, and they gotta make sure So, so the Raider defense gonna have to make sure they're on the same page. No, on defense. Why? Because they're gonna have to make sure Justin Herbert does not run with the football, or he doesn't have a lot of time in the pocket. Last week when they played against the Chargers, and the Chargers offense were playing with this high energy out there. They were going out there and playing with high energy. They were going out there and protecting their quarterback. They were doing everything as possible. So, so this week the Raiders defense gonna have to step up big time. Where their defensive linemen gonna have to find, you know, where the defensive linemen gonna have to get after their quarterback, put a lot of pressure there. But I would like to see is Pete Carroll, and also I would like to see Patrick Graham there, and they're in deep communication where they are finding ways where they can get the defensive lineman going and their entire defense, where they're finding different avenues where they can get after their quarterback, and then go. I would like to see it. Max Crosby have a first sack of the season where he's getting after their quarterback, and then I would like to see Malcolm Coons going out there and he's also being a beast out there too, where he's breaking up sacks too. I would definitely like to see that, but then I would like to see the group, linebacker group on making sure they have eye where they're having the eye on their quarterback and making sure he doesn't get out of the pocket or he doesn't run, doesn't do anything. I would like to see them do that at times during the game, but the most important, I'd like to see the entire defenses. I would like to see them work on this proper tackling. Last week, the Raiders had about 4 or 5 missed tackles out there because, the reason is because when they play against the Chargers, they're going to have to make sure they're doing proper tackling. Why? Because last week they played against Kansas City Chiefs and they went out there and they won that game. So the Raiders, and if the Raiders want to be 2-0 this week, they must work on this proper tackling. Second, I would like to see them work on this proper covering. Last week the Raiders had the Raiders had too many wide open players out there. When the Raiders, oh, bye. Thanks for coming to the show. So anyhow, so the Raiders, and they want to be able to stop the Chargers offense. They're gonna need to be able to do proper covering out there, making sure they're not allowing anybody to get open. They're gonna have to do that. Second, I'd like to see them work on this too. Is penalties, not getting any penalties out there. I do not want to see the Raiders on defense ranking up a lot of penalties out there. Last week, the Raiders had two penalties, and they were on the defensive lineman where we had two offsides calls. So the Raiders gonna have to make sure they don't do any penalties. When the Raiders play against the Chargers, they must not do a lot of penalties out there. And then also I would definitely like to see is Pete Carroll and the defensive coordinator have deep communication where they're finding different ways where they can get the defense going, where they could be able to stop the Chargers, so they'll get a lot of touchdowns out there, and they're not getting a lot of yards out there, or they're not allowing a lot of sacks, no, allowing the running back to get as many yards as he can. But then also, I would definitely like to see them doing, making sure and they're stopping Justin Herbert much as possible. And second, I would like to see them doing, making sure they are not letting the running back get as many yards as they can. I would definitely like to see the Raiders be a beast, and they can have the Raider fan be cheering so much where they're so happy to see the defense performing well. And then also I'd like to see the cornerbacks and the safety play at a high level where they're out there dominating. But then I would like to see is I would like to see a Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham at times, and they are communicating with the defense, making sure they are on the same page, and if they have to make adjustments on defense, if they have to call certain plays for a while, so they could keep the Chargers. Keep the Chargers from getting a lot of touchdowns or not allowing them to get down the field. So those are some of the things I would like to see the Raiders do this week. Put down in the chat. Are you definitely excited to see the Raiders play their first Monday night game at home? I am definitely ready to see the Raiders go out there and they're gonna start this season with 2-0, where they're 2-0 this season. I'm definitely ready to see the Raiders go out there and on get the W at home. So thanks for joining the live stream. So before I go, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, and then also subscribe to the channel too. Talk to you all later. Bye now.